11.6 goes over solving equations by factoring in the form of x squared plus bx plus c, where your c term is positive. So we're first going to start just by factoring these. You want to remember that if your c term is positive, that means that your two factors that multiply to be that term have to have the same sign. So depending on your middle term, that will tell you whether or not both factors are positive or both factors are negative. So if we look at example 1, it tells us just to factor x squared plus 11x plus 30. We want to find the factors of 30 that add up to be positive 11. That 11 is positive, your b term is positive, so both of your factors of 30 are going to be positive. If you start from the beginning, you have 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10. You also have 5 and 6. If you added the 5 and the 6, you get a positive 11, which is that b term. So this factors out to be x plus 5 times x plus 6. For example 2, for a, we have x squared plus 8x plus 15. So again, we're going to find the factors of that 15 that add up to be 8. That 8 is positive, so both of our factors for 15 have to be positive as well. We have 1 and 15, 3 and 5. If the 3 and the 5 are both positive and we add those, we get that positive 8. So this just factors out to be x plus 3 times x plus 5. And you can always check your answers with these by foiling these out or multiplying these two binomials, because you will be left with the trinomial that you started with if you FOIL them and combine your like terms. For example B, we have x squared minus 10x plus 24. Now with this one, your b term is negative, so both of the terms or both of the factors of that 24 are going to have to be negative. So when we find the factors of 24, we have negative 1 and negative 24. Negative 2 and negative 12, negative 3 and negative 8, negative 4 and negative 6. When you combine the negative 4 and the negative 6, that gives you a negative 10. So this factors out to be x minus 4 times x minus 6. For our next example, C, we have y squared plus 14y plus 40. Now for this one, your 14 is positive and your c term is 40. So we're finding the factors of 40 that add up to be a positive 14. If you know off the top of your head that 4 times 10 is 40 and 4 plus 10 is 14, you don't necessarily have to find every single factor of your c term. So we know that 4 times 10 is positive 40 and 4 plus 10 is 14. So this just gives us y plus 4 times y plus 10 when it's factored completely. For example D, we have y squared minus 11y plus 18. Your 18 is positive, that 11, that's your b term, is negative. So both of the factors of 18 are going to add up to be a negative 11. They both have to be negative in order to give you that positive when you multiply. We would have negative 1 and negative 18, negative 2 and negative 9. We don't have to go any further with this because negative 2 plus negative 9 is negative 11. So this just factors out to be y minus 2 times y minus 9. For example E, we have x squared minus 10x plus 14. Your factors of 14 that add up to be negative 10, they're both going to have to be negatives. We would have negative 1 and negative 14, negative 2 and negative 7. Those are the only factors of 14 that are both negatives that would have to possibly be adding up to negative 10. If you combine these, neither set of these add up to be a negative 10. So this cannot be factored. You label it as prime. For the next part of your lesson, we're just solving these equations by factoring. And you do have a couple steps that will help you. You can write the equation in the form of x squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, or x squared minus bx plus c is equal to 0. From there, factor your c term to find the factors that add up to be your b term. Form two sets of parentheses that are set equal to 0 once you factor. Set each of those parentheses equal to 0, and then solve your new equation for both parts. If we look at example 3, we are given x squared minus 8x minus 12. This equation is not equal to 0, and in order for us to start, it has to be equal to 0. So we're going to move the 12 over by adding it to both sides. It doesn't combine with any like term on that left side with that x squared minus 8x. So this gives you x squared minus 8x plus 12 is equal to 0. The 8 is negative, the 12 is positive. So we need two terms that are the same sign that add up to be negative 8. So both of them are going to be negative. Your factors of 12 that add up to be negative 8 are negative 2 and negative 6. So this factors out to be x minus 2 times x minus 6 is equal to 0. From here, we got to set each set of parentheses equal to 0 and solve for the x value, or solve for your variable. So we're going to have x minus 2 is equal to 0, and x minus 6 is equal to 0. We're going to add 2 to both sides to get x is equal to 2. And we're going to add 6 to both sides to get that x is equal to 6 as well. So we have two solutions for this, 2 and 6. For example 4, we have x squared plus 8x is equal to negative 15. So for this one, it's still not equal to 0, so we got to move the 15 over. We're going to add it to both sides. We have x squared plus 8x plus 15 is equal to 0. From here, we have a positive 15 and a positive 8. We want the factors of positive 15 that add up to be positive 8. So our two factors are going to have the same sign. So if we have a positive 3 and a positive 5, they add to be 8. They multiply to be positive 15. So this factors out to be x plus 3 times x plus 5 is equal to 0. We set each of these parentheses equal to 0, so x plus 3 is equal to 0, and x plus 5 is equal to 0. We're going to solve for each of these. Move your 3 over by subtracting it from each side. You get that x is equal to negative 3. Move the 5 over by subtracting it from each side. You get x is equal to negative 5. So again, two solutions for this one. They're negative 3 and negative 5. For our next example, we have x squared plus 15x is equal to negative 54. We're going to add this 54 to be on the same side as that x squared and that 15x. So we have x squared plus 15x plus 54 is equal to 0. We want the factors of 54 that add up to be 15. If we divided the 54 by 9, 9 plus 15 is 9 plus 6 is 15. So your factors of 54 are 6 and 9. They add to be 15. They multiply to be 54. So when we factor this, we're going to have x plus 6 times x plus 9 is equal to 0. We set each parentheses equal to 0. So x plus 6 is equal to 0. X plus 9 is equal to 0. We're going to move the 6 over by subtracting it from each side. We get that x is equal to negative 6. Move the 9 over by subtracting it from each side. We get x is equal to negative 9. For our last example, we have x squared minus 13x is equal to negative 12. We're going to move the 12 over by adding it to both sides. We get x squared minus 13x plus 12 is equal to 0. Find the factors of 12 that add up to be negative 13. We have negative 1 and negative 12. So this factors out to be x minus 1 times x minus 12 is equal to 0. Set each set of parentheses equal to 0 and solve. So x minus 1 is equal to 0. X minus 12 is equal to 0. We add the 1 to both sides. We get that x is equal to 1. We add the 12 to both sides. We get that x is equal to 12.